And welcome back to Quick Focus Blueprint. I am your Quick Focus coach, Jim Quick, and I want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate you for showing up the way that you're showing up. We're covering a lot of information in a very short period of time, and the goal for this 30 days really is to triple your focus. So you could have greater levels of productivity, get more things done, but you could also have a level of peace, where you could actually have a level of grace, where it's not frantic fast, where you're just going in every single direction, but you have a focus clarity. Because sometimes when we have the opposite, when we feel confused, when we feel overloaded or overwhelmed or we're distracted, it really holds us back from the things that we really desire and we really deserve to have in our life. And so every single session, I am committed as your coach to teach you, to give you resources and tools and real practical steps on how you could really harness your most valuable asset, your most priceless asset that you have, which really is your attention. And then the challenge is there's so many things that are vying for your attention, trying to get your attention, and the world is full of distractions. So how do you study? How do you get things done? How do you set up your meetings? How do you get everything that you need that's going to give you the success and the fulfillment that you really need and that you really want? And so in this session, I'm going to introduce you. We talked about the power of having a goal, right? We talked about GPA and having your goal of what you like to accomplish over the next 30 days. And so you should have your big focus goal in your mind and you're writing in your journal. So those were resources. We also talked about the power of everybody has a to-do list, but also having a not to-do list, right? An incredibly powerful tool, because we know that in order to have something great, you have to say no a lot to the good. And the challenge is, as you become more and more successful, you have more and more opportunities and more things that you're committing to. And the most successful people, the most focused individuals, the high elite mental performers are the ones that say no more than they say yes, right? Because every single time you say no to something, it gives you the possibility to really focus on the one thing that's left over. And so what we're going to talk about in this session is a time management technique. Now, I think time management is a little bit of a misnomer, like multitasking. I really think there's no such thing as multitasking. It's actually more accurately called task switching, because every single time you move to another task, it takes you minutes, maybe 20 minutes, up to 20 minutes to be able to regain your focus and regain your flow, right? And so we want to deter that. You don't want to do multiple cognitive activities, mental activities at once. Now, what I want to talk about here is not just a way of managing your time, but really managing your priorities. Since you can multitask and you want to put your attention multiple places, as you and I are having this conversation together, I want to introduce you to a priority management technique, and it's called the Pomodoro technique. And I'm going to go through this really quick, and this is going to be your big takeaway. This is a very famous life management hack, basically created back in the 1980s. And it's one of the most popular time management tools that are out there. Basically, it's saying that you have a limited level of attention and focus. After about 25 minutes, your attention takes a dip and your focus takes a dip. So we're talking about 25 minutes, which is maybe a sitcom. 20, 30 minutes is your sitcom. And the reason why it's so powerful is what we're doing here is it's a way of maximizing your focus, keeping your creative juices going, helping you to have a constraint. Meaning, I believe that when you create a constraint, you have a constraint of money, you have a constraint of time, you have a constraint of resources. It forces you to have concentration. It forces focus when you have a certain amount of time. It also forces commitment, right? When you have only a short runway, meaning you only have 25 minutes or you give yourself a week to accomplish a goal, then it forces your commitment, it forces your clarity in terms of what you want, because you have to get very specific, and it also focuses your level of commitment, right? Because you really have to go all in when you have a deadline. And so this is the Pomodoro technique, is utilizing this phenomenon of this 25-minute work period that we call a Pomodoro, and it's basically the Italian word for tomato. The creator actually had a kitchen timer that was shaped like a tomato, and that's what he named his method from. And so the goal here is I want you to set, you don't need a tomato shaped kitchen timer. You could use your phone, and you're going to set it for 25 minutes. So the basic idea here is that if you study or prepare for hours upon hours, let's say you're preparing for a meeting or you're studying for an exam, and you cram it all into 5 hours. The challenge is we know that after the first 25 minutes or so, your attention is going to dip. The other principle that it's a reason it's really important to take breaks is because it utilizes two memory principles. It's called primacy and recency. Primacy and recency. Basically, it means that you tend to remember things in the beginning. That's what primacy is. And recency means you tend to remember things towards the end or that are more recent. So for example, if you go to a party and you're there for a few hours and you meet 50 people or whatever, you're probably more likely to remember the people in the beginning of the party, primacy, and the people that you met towards the end, which means it's more recent or recency. If I give you a list of 20, 30, 50 words, you'll probably remember the first few words and the last few words because that's primacy and recency. So how does this relate to the Pomodoro technique? Basically, what I'm suggesting to you is to study for about 25 minutes, set your timer on your phone, and then when your timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. And I call these brain breaks. And so the three things I always do during brain breaks is I give my brain what it needs. I give it, number one, I give it oxygen. So I do some deep breathing, because if you suffer from mental fatigue or mental fog, things that take away from your focus, then that's an issue. And so I would go towards a deep diaphragmatic breathing. Lots of times when people are studying, they have a slump posture and they're collapsing their diaphragm. And we know that the lower 1/3 of your lungs delivers 2/3 of the oxygen. So you need to be able to breathe. And so give your brain the oxygen it needs. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it requires 20% of the nutrients. The second thing that I would do during your breaks is hydrate, because your brain is also about 70% water and it requires proper hydration. So make sure that you're getting enough water. And then the third thing I would do that's very good for your brain is to move. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do during your brain breaks. So you're going to do a 25-minute work period, knowing that what it's really doing, according to primacy and recency, is, let's say you're breaking down your 5-hour study time instead of doing a 5-hour cramming where you remember stuff in the beginning and at the end, but everything in the middle, there's a big dip and loss. Then by taking a break every 25 minutes, and I'm talking about like a 5-minute break, a brain break, right? To breathe, to also hydrate, and also to move. Because the third thing, movement, your brain primarily, its primary function is to control your movement. And here's the thing, as your body moves, your brain grooves. And we're going to talk about different exercises you could do to enhance your focus in this program. But as your body moves, your brain grooves. And so you don't want to just sit sedentary, because that's not how you maintain focus. Because what happens is your body has to get up and move, because they say that sitting is the new smoking, right? The sitting is the new smoking, that if you're sedentary for 8 hours, then that's a challenge. You need to get up and give your brain stimulus and oxygen. And so that's what movement allows you to be able to do. So I want to encourage you as your coach, and this is common sense, and some things that I'm going to be talking about in this program as your coach is not going to be brand new information, but it's going to be a reminder of what you do when you're doing your best, when you want the best version of yourself, when you want to reach more of your potential. So here's your homework assignment. You're going to study, and for whether it's your meeting or you're going to work in 25-minute periods as best you can. You're going to set your alarm, because that alarm becomes a trigger. We talk about that in our memory training. And then you're going to spend 5 minutes, and what you're going to do is you're going to have a brain break. You're going to give your brain the exercise, the nutrients, the oxygen that it needs to be able to thrive, so you maintain your mental energy and your focus throughout the day. And the reason why, according to primacy and recency, so for 25, let's say you're studying for like 5 hours straight. The problem is, again, you remember stuff in the beginning and at the end, but there's a dip in the middle. By taking a break every 25 minutes, a 5-minute break, you create more beginnings and more ends. Let me say that again. By taking a break every 25, 30 minutes, just for a few minutes, you create more stops, and then it creates more primacies and more recencies, more beginning and more end, so you pick up a lot more information. Besides the fact that most people need to give their brain a break after 25 minutes anyway, so they could refresh themselves. So that is the Pomodoro technique. And so your homework, again, when you're working, you're studying, you're going to study in 25-minute spurts, and then you're going to take a 2 to 5 minute brain break in between, and then you're going to get back to work and you're going to set your alarm. And by giving yourself this constraint, you could actually set your goals, your micro tasks, what you need to accomplish. You're like, okay, I'm going to give myself 25 minutes to be able to go through my emails. And that's what I do. I check emails twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, as you listen to my not to-do list and the things that I covered in there. So I'm going to encourage you to be able to do that also as well. So what I want you to do is do this homework, post your comments and your questions below in the discussion, and share how it's actually working for you, because you wanted you to share your challenges and also your joys, because that's what we're doing together. Remember that we're doing this as a team. Together, everyone achieves more. That's what TEAM stands for. And so I can't wait to hear your feedback on this, and also to talk to you again tomorrow. Take care.